Join us today for a little bit more in-depth look at the latest insanity gripping the D&D community as regards the OGL and or Open Gaming License. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. As I said in the intro, today we're going to be covering the various ins and outs as we presently understand them of what is going on with the Dungeons and Dragons Open Gaming License proposed changes for D&D1 or potentially D&DOne.
So, for those of us who haven't been keeping up with it, what has been going on?
Okay, so this has kind of occurred in there's been like a series of steps that have brought us to this point. And this all started around, I believe it was mid December, uh, where a gentleman on YouTube, and if I can, I'll link to his video. I believe it's Creative Beast, I want to say. And I apologize, I should have written his name down so I got this part right. I forgot I was going to do the summary for this video. He claimed that he got inside information that there was going to be no OGL or Open Gaming License. And if I may, for just a moment, explain what that is. Back whenever Wizards of the Coast back whenever they acquired TSR, and then they themselves were acquired by Hasbro, somewhere in that era, they instituted what was called the Open Gaming License. I believe that one was the 1.0, if I'm following out the history correctly, which basically said that people who use this, so long as they attribute it in their works, and it's like 2 pages, they are allowed to use things from the SRD, which I keep calling the System Resource Document, but I believe it actually stands for something else. It's the S that I'm getting wrong, and unfortunately I did not write that down either. But the point of what the SRD is, its acronym is irrelevant. What it is the bare bones rules to third edition. Races, classes, spells, anything that is not copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast. Those would be are trademarked or however they want to legally protect them. That would be things like mind flayers, beholders, creatures that they created. They didn't create humans, elves, dwarves, orcs, goblins, things
Dragons.
like that. Dragons, yeah. Now, specific dragons, yes. Dragons as a concept, no. So, and it's questionable how much of the actual rules you can actually copyright. And we'll get to that as we explain the rest here. So, the only major update was when 3.5 came out, and it became the 1.A version of the document. And that document has stood for 20 some odd years. Now, they attempted a different license, which was called the GSL, unless I'm mistaken, for 4th edition. It was far more restrictive, and this is all going to sound familiar here very shortly. No one took it up, essentially, and as a result, between that and what a lot of people clearly felt was a poor direction for the game.
You mean going towards World of the Warcraft style where all the classes feel about the same?
Yes, it just didn't, to a lot of people, it didn't feel like Dungeons and Dragons. As I understand it, it's a great tactical combat simulator game. It's just not a good Dungeons and Dragons game for most people. Some people love it, and more power to them. But anyway, so that's when Paizo found themselves in a unique situation because up to this point, Paizo had been publishing the Dungeon and Dragon magazines. So they already had quite a bit of experience making 3rd edition content. And Wizards of the Coast was canceling both magazines and rendering them digital, and they were going to be doing all the content. So Paizo said, man, this is a perfect storm. Let's just continue third edition. They basically made a few changes, things they felt needed updated because 3.5 was far from perfect. And they made what was essentially 3.75, or as you better know it, Pathfinder. Pathfinder relies heavily on the OGL because it relies heavily on the SRD. So, all of a sudden, because of this document they created, their first real competitor in forever shows up and starts outselling them throughout 4th edition. Now, eventually 5e came along and put Paizo into second place. And they've since gone on to create Pathfinder 2nd edition. So, now the initial point of the OGL, I believe, was not altruistic in any way, shape, or form. My personal opinion, as I stated in another video that we haven't published yet and probably won't get up before this one, is that you do things like this because resources, no matter what kind, are limited. Whether it be physical resources, whether it be intellectual capital, everything has limits. So, if you're sitting there, you're Hasbro, you want to make sure that competitors don't arise. Well, what better way to do that than to offer just enough of your game to ensure that anyone that's going to seriously go into it is going to take the safe route and just borrow bits and pieces of your game and build onto that. And all that does is that expands your pond, because those people will check out Dungeons and Dragons that play those games, or they left from Dungeons and Dragons, and they'll see that it's compatible and potentially drift back.
And that is actually kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah. And it keeps them from creating something truly unique that could topple the dragon. So it creates a sandbox, but it's not a sandbox, it's a walled garden, to use some phrases that have been thrown around lately about all this stuff. But you don't see the wall yet till you're stuck. So that's the real genius behind it, in my opinion. Instead of having people create other systems, one of which could overrun yours, they're just using a watered down version of your system. So you can always be like, yeah, their game's okay, but it's not as good as ours, because ours has all the fun stuff, even if that's not true, because some of the other things work better. But anyway, I believe that's what it was primarily used for. Now, fast forward to 5th edition, and 5th edition gets incorporated into the older OGL. So people can use the bare bones of 5th edition to make their own games, make their own expansions, whatever. And this is where you see companies like Kobold Press just go crazy, making stuff constantly and making lots and lots of money on Kickstarter doing so. So one of the things about the OGL is you can't expressly say that it's compatible with Dungeons and Dragons. So you have to use a phrase like compatible with the world's most popular role-playing game, or other leading role-playing games, or something like that. Well, for 5th edition, Wizards of the Coast never directly called it 5th edition in anything official, so people are able to stamp 5e all over it. Everyone knows what it means, and boom, you've got it. So, in my personal opinion, this is all a good thing for Wizards of the Coast. Because, yeah, sure, Kobold Press might be making millions of dollars. Hasbro's making billions of dollars off of Dungeons and Dragons. And part of that is because people play it and they get to a point where they're like, yeah, the official stuff's okay. Let's check some other stuff. Well, they're not abandoning your game entirely. They're just looking at third-party material for your game. They're still playing your game.
Spells, monsters. You go looking for stuff that most people call homebrew, but it's third-party homebrew.
Right. And it's typically, people typically don't start at third party. They typically start with D&D the game. So that's where basically the open gaming license was, and possibly still is, because some of this is at present not 100% confirmed. So that's the history of the open gaming license, what it does, what it's presently being used for. Like the Critical Role folks, they use it in developing their settings because they're clearly using D&D stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, Kobold Games, Pathfinder First Edition. I don't play Second Edition, so I couldn't tell you. I think Dungeon Crawl Classics puts it in there, but I don't know what they actually borrow from it. Theirs could just be a safety thing. Because looking at their game system, I think it's different enough that they could get by without it. But yeah, so you've got big companies do use it. So, like I started back in the middle of December, a gentleman who, again, I believe his name is Questing Beast on YouTube, but I will put a link down to the video just to be sure. And on the off chance he sees this, apologize if I got your name wrong. So he produced a video where he said he had heard from reliable sources that there was going to be, open gaming license for D&DOne. And this started a little minor storm on YouTube because people trust this guy, and he claimed the sources were good. And a few other prominent YouTubers in the D&D sphere took it up. So Wizards of the Coast responded and said, yes, there is going to be an open gaming license, but there's going to be some changes. Now, the changes they mentioned, for the most part, in my opinion, were reasonable. This would have been around December, I want to say 27th, that they released this statement, somewhere right around there. It's like last week or two of December. But about a week after the video surfaced and the commotion started. And the part of it was that they wanted to clarify that the license only applies to printed material and what they called static electronic documents, PDFs. It does not, it never was intended to apply to video games, NFTs, cartoons, comics, anything like that. It was only meant for the gaming part of the license. But the original doesn't actually specify that, apparently. So, which is evidenced by the fact there's at least 2 Pathfinder video games which have to use that engine, because that's the engine that the RPG uses. So clearly the video game has to use that. And others have copied it, I'm sure. Notably, I believe that Knights of the Old Republic...
That'd be Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic from would have still been LucasArts at the time. And BioWare made the first one, and I can't think of who made the second one. It would use the same system because it used either the D20 Modern, or it was the Star Wars system that licensed the D20 system. So, but at any rate, it uses the same system as 3.5. So it too would fall under that. And so they said they mentioned the part about the video games, and to me that seems reasonable. You're sitting there as a company, you want other printed material, but you don't want to just allow some Joe Blow to come along and start making video games, because that's not going to help you. Because like if we came along and used the D20 Modern rules to make some kind of shooter, that doesn't help Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast at all. That's not putting anything back to them, because no one's even going to know, because it's all math running in the background. So to me that seemed reasonable. The NFT thing, even though I think they're dead, may as well mention it. And of course, comics, movies, games, beyond that, that all seemed reasonable to me. The next thing was they wanted you, if you're going to use the 1.1, I believe is what it is, license, to report what you're doing with it. Give them a summary of the project of some kind. And if you're making over $50,000, they want to know about it. And if you're making over $750,000, they're going to charge a royalty on everything above $750,000. And to be clear, that's on gross, not net, which is important because that's pre-expense. So, like, say you run a Kickstarter that raises $1 million. Well, for those of you that don't understand the economics of Kickstarter or of businesses, that $1 million doesn't just go to your pocket. Okay? First of all, Kickstarter takes a percentage. I don't know what the percentage is, but they take a percentage. Then you have to pay whatever you have left to do for the item. You know, there could be art left to do, page layout, writing.
Your editors and artists and writers,
Editors,
you gotta get paid.
you've got all that, or they were perhaps doing it on the assumption that you're going to succeed at the Kickstarter. And now you have to pay them, you know, even if the work's already done. Then you have to pay to actually produce whatever it is you're producing.
So you're going to a publishing company, a manufacturing company of some sort.
Right. Now, unless you did it all electronically, in which case then you just have to get the files ready. But even that takes some time and money.
Yep.
But if there's physical components, now they have to be manufactured.
And then shipped.
And shipped. So this is all chipping away at that money. But the thing is, you're paying based on that lump sum, not your profit at the end. Well, it's a 25%, at least is from what it looks like, from the second or third data dump here. The first one didn't specify how much. It's a later one that did, but it's apparently 25% on everything above $750,000. So that could entirely eliminate your profit, depending on how things work out. But that's not the real nightmare scenario. I'll get to that in a minute.
That could actually eliminate your budget to get it finished.
Yeah, like this, that could really stick it to somebody. Now, whenever they were talking about this, they assured everyone that this only applies to roughly 20 groups. You know, this is essentially like Cobalt Press. I think Chaosium is the one I keep hearing mentioned, and like Critical Role and a few others. Now, to be clear, unless the people making these decisions are absolutely insane, I don't feel that it's necessary to keep mentioning Critical Role because they almost definitely will have a unique contract of some kind because their relationship is different compared to almost everyone else's.
Yep.
That's not to say people at Hasbro aren't engaging in the time-honored tradition of their Hollywood cohorts and snorting in a whole lot of the white powder before they make these decisions. But assuming they're not, assuming sanity is prevailing to a limited extent, because this all sounds insane to me, then they probably have a separate deal with Critical Role. If they don't, well, then they're going to get what they deserve. That's all I can say. And it will be fun to watch. It'll be tragic, but it'll be oh so satisfying also. So, then came the second shoe to drop, which was, the one last part. If people wanted to know more, Wizards of the Coast was happy to tell them, so long as they signed a non-disclosure agreement. And several people at the time were like, well, I don't see any way that the rest of this news is good, if that's the case. Because you usually don't have people sign a non-disclosure agreement when the news is good.
Yeah.
So, but, as several people pointed out, we didn't know for sure. Well, now we kind of do. Assuming that everything else I'm about to say can be trusted. And I'll get to that. Just a little quick disclaimer here, because there's going to be some legal stuff here. I am not a lawyer.
Neither am I.
Neither is Chad. Nothing we're about to say should be construed to be legal advice in any way, shape, or form. Nor should it be considered a valid legal opinion. I highly doubt it will hold up in court.
Nope.
I will not come to help it hold up in court.
Neither will I. I'm going to be honest.
If you somehow live nearby us, like, I'll come and wave at you in
Yeah.
court,
Yeah, I'll
maybe.
come watch the trial.
But, like, whenever you say, hey, that guy on YouTube said this thing and I did this thing, yeah, no, that's not going to work as a defense, so don't try it.
Nope.
Not that I can really envision what on earth anyone taking this to mean, but that's a disclaimer I need to throw out there. Also, none of this should be construed to be business advice either.
No. No, so, no. We are not businessmen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so then comes the second part. A different person. This would be. I don't know which live stream this initially came from because I found out about this from a not live stream video from the rules lawyer who is a lawyer. But to be clear,
not an IP lawyer.
Not an IP lawyer, as he states. And then it wasn't until I saw a different video by the woman from Ireland.
Discourse. Her main channel is Discourse Miniatures.
Yes,
but she started a new one. I think Discourse Tabletop,
something like that. Yes,
for like D&D stuff.
Yes, and again, I'm going to try to provide links to all these things in a pinned comment, so that if you want to go check them out, which you should, because they explain this a little better than I do. Probably a lot better than I do. And it was watching her video where I found out that this actually all initially came from someone's live stream. So, but I haven't tracked it down yet. And so, anyway, the old rules lawyer had excerpts of what appeared to be either the final version or at least a draft version dated in late December of the new 1.1 open gaming license for D&D Next, or D&DOne, sorry. And it had some interesting features. It seems like this one is trying to supersede the others, and it seems like it's trying to do so by saying that the others are no longer considered valid agreements. And there's an awful lot of back and forth at the moment as to whether you could just wave your hand and say, yeah, this contract is no longer valid, when the initial contract has words like in perpetuity.
That means forever, people.
Yeah. So that one's probably destined for court. Because what they're trying to say is you can't use the others anymore. They're no longer valid agreements. It's this one or bust. And as I'm about to explain what this one is, I think a lot of people are going to choose bust. If that ends up being the case. Let's moving on from whether or not they can just wave a wand and make the other one disappear. I'm of the opinion that they can't. Again, the phrase in perpetuity, the fact it's existed for 20 some odd years with no challenge whatsoever from Wizards of the Coast, meaning that does matter in law. The longer you let things just go. And then, at least in my lay understanding of the law. Also, there are interviews and notes from the Wizards of the Coast website from throughout the years and the message boards with official people posting, all saying that it's an irrevocable license. So, even if that's not in the license, it's very clear that the company communicated that that's the way they interpreted it, and that creates an expectation at which people then committed to activity of a financial nature. So again, I'm of the opinion you can't just scrap that given these pieces. But I'm not a lawyer, and the legal system is not exactly known for making sense most of the time.
Yeah.
So, but there's also another potential problem. Let's say you are going to go toe-to-toe with Hasbro. Hasbro's a multi-billion-dollar company. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing you're not.
They might be. We don't know.
I mean, they could be. For all I know, Elon Musk is sitting there like, man, those smug bastards at Wizards of the Coast, I'm going to take them down.
I'm going to buy them now.
I mean, it could happen. I doubt it, but it could happen. He could be one of our 140 some odd subscribers.
I would take Elon Musk owning Wizards of the Coast.
Maybe. Depends on who else. Depends on who Ultimate puts in charge.
I was more just thinking free D&D
but first
rules book with every Tesla.
But he'll spend the first 6 months just making erratic changes and
firing people,
printing random card sets that don't make any sense, and immediately errating them, and then errating the errata, and doing the same thing with D&D, and it'll be glorious chaos for like 6 months. But anyway, so they're trying to shut down the old versions of the license. So the new one has some features that they didn't talk about back in December, assuming these statements can be true, assuming these statements are true. And these are the real important features. Feature number 1, similar to if you sell anything on not D&D Beyond, but the something guild.
Drive-through RPG.
No, not drive-through
GM's
RPG.
Guild.
The GM's Guild. DM's Guild.
DM's Guild, yes.
If you sell on the DM's Guild, you Wizards of the Coast owns it. Okay? You get the money from the sale, half the money. But Wizards of the Coast owns whatever you put on there. So that's how the 1.1 OGL is going to work also. Anything that's created under it, you are granting Wizards of the Coast a perpetual, in perpetuity, license to do whatever they want with it. Forever.
You're missing a word in there.
It's irrevocable.
No.
They don't have to pay you anything.
Yes, royalty free.
They don't have to acknowledge that you made it. They can do whatever they want with it, and it's worldwide.
But you still own it.
Yes, but you still own it. I don't know how.
If you can't control it, like everything about it, how do you own it?
I don't know, but the more important part of that is the next part. They can also, at their leisure, alter or end the agreement at any point. They don't have to explain why. They just have to give you 30 days notice. So if you create something, they can use it for whatever reason, and then 30 days later, and then they terminate your license. What good does owning it do if you can't do anything with it while they're out selling it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So now you take those pieces together, and I feel like there's another one I'm missing. So I thought there was a third piece in here. It's the you got to tell them what you're doing. They get the ability to use it. They can terminate you. Oh, they get a chunk of your money. But yeah, so what can happen is you can spend a year and a half doing all the layout work and everything for this really awesome book that's going to just blow everyone away. You get it up on Kickstarter. This is the nightmare scenario I mentioned earlier. You get it up on Kickstarter. You make a whole lot of money. You're somewhere in the middle of production, so most of the money's been paid out to everybody that's going to need it to produce the physical books. And out of nowhere, Wizards of the Coast comes riding in and says, hey, by the way, in 30 days you can't do anything with these things. Oh, you won't even have them ready in 30 days? Man, sucks to be you. So now you have paid out all the money you made from Kickstarter on things that you can't sell that you're legally probably going to have to destroy.
After already giving Wizards of the Coast their cut.
After giving Wizards of the Coast their cut. And if you're an honorable person, you owe everyone a refund. And then the icing on the cake is going to be 3 months from now, Wizards of the Coast is going to sell the same damn book.
Because you had to give them everything you made.
Yes. So, that is the situation as it is presently understood to be existing under the new OGL. So I have to ask, just like I did in the other video, who in their right mind would ever agree to that? Even if Wizards of the Coast even if it goes on for 2 years and they never do that to anybody, the fact that they could, you you you're
It's a sword of Damocles hanging over your head.
it's a sword of Damocles. Like it's what is the word I'm looking for? You'd be
Untrustworthy?
no, not untrustworthy, not insufficient, malefacient. No,
Expendable?
no. It's when you do foolish things with other people's money.
Oh, I know what you mean. I don't know the word, but I know
And
what you mean.
you'd be the opposite of a
Frugal person?
no, not frugal. God, I got to write these things down instead of trusting myself to remember them. Uh, you'd be the opposite of a fiduciary, okay? Because a fiduciary has to like look out for their client's best interest with their money. Whatever the opposite of that is, that's what you would be.
If anyone knows the term for that, comment it down below.
Yeah, yeah. Because apparently the thesaurus part of my brain just broke there. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah. Not untrustworthy, but it's very close to that. Uh, yeah, it'll come to me in 5 seconds after we're done recording. Anyway,
But I'll be too late,
if
folks.
I think of it, I'll put it in the pinned comment. But anyway, like that's what you would be, and I mean, you'd be absolutely foolhardy. That's not it, but that's the perfect descriptor. And I mean, like we've talked a little bit about trying to make some stuff, and me and Brad have talked a little bit about it. And given this whole thing, we've decided that we are definitely not. If 1.1 is anything like that, we are not hitching our sail to that ship. So
Yeah.
no. Like I wouldn't even make a random potion generating table and sell it into that. Like, why would you make anything and sell it into that? Like, I'm just gonna go make or system agnostic content.
There you go.
Which, for those of you that don't know what that term means, because it's been thrown around a lot lately, and I had to explain it to a few people, that essentially means
It can be used with any system that is out there.
yes, or a number of systems anyway. I don't know about any, but definitely a lot of them.
It means it's not
potentially.
it's not geared towards one specific system.
Right. And not to completely give away the game here, but for those of you who are like, man, how could you do that? Well, it's easy.
You make your own game.
Well, you can make your own game, or like I said, like potions. Okay, you can have. I don't call it a potion of invisibility, just in case. But even though I don't think you can trademark that either, because those are just three common words.
Yeah.
But you can say that a potion makes a character invisible. Just don't italicize the word invisible. That's just a word. The fact that Wizards of the Coast have chosen to use it as a game term doesn't mean they can copyright it or trademark it.
Tell that to Games Workshop.
Well, this is in England, so I don't have to. And we're not talking about making third-party content for Warhammer here.
No.
So, the potion can make your character invisible. No one can see you over that. That's a string of words in English. Boom, done. Just take that concept and apply it to the things. There's ways around it. Or you could make a whole setting book. It's just going to have characters, their archetypes, like like the kingdom. It's ruled by the king. Was a warrior back in the day. He has his royal the court wizard there, and you can use all these terms. Just don't give them levels and spells and combat abilities. Say, hey, look, take this. Here's what you have to work with. Now, for you that's going to use this, you figure it out. If I said the king was a warrior, he probably has levels in fighter, or maybe paladin. The wizard, well, he's probably a wizard. You fill in the blanks. We've given you roughly where everyone stands power-wise. You just fill it in, but we've built the world for you. You can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
Or you figure out who is going to be left standing, and make stuff for their settings, because a number of the other games have similar licenses. Uh, like I'm looking into the Dungeon Crawl Classics because I think that's the way they're set up. Because I see a lot of people make third-party stuff for them, and plus, to me, that system just looks amazing. So,
It looks like something.
Chad, I just think you can't get past the guy on the front cover with the candy striper pants.
No.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish I knew the story there, but anyway. So that's where things stand. And like I said at the very beginning, parts of it I understand. You know, you want to make it, if you're Hasbro and you want to make it so people can't make video games off of your stuff, okay. Uh, Now, part of it, good luck, because another fun thing, you can't copyright math. So, you go to court and you try to convince them, oh, well, in our book it says you use a D4 here and their random number generator goes to 4, and a judge is going to look at you and be like, so because you both went to 4, yours is a D4, his is a random number generator, his is electronic, yours is a die, and you can't claim to own
You're forgetting something
D4.
about programming. If it goes to 4 on a random number generator, you got 5 digits. That's a D5, my friend.
Okay. Obviously, you'd exclude 0. But anyway, so you're going to run into that problem of you can't copyright math, and so there's a whole lot of stuff in the role playing games that there's no hope of them winning in court over. Now you do still run into the problem of they might sue you anyway, and
unless you're someone big, you're not going to have the money to go to court.
Right. I mean, I suppose technically you can always represent yourself, but I don't know.
There's a saying about that, folks.
Yes, there is. Chad, just in case the folks who never heard it.
Someone who represents themselves has a fool for a client.
Yeah.
That is not a legal opinion on my part. It is a saying that has been around since at least I've been around.
Yeah. Well, it's conversations like this that there's also some other sayings that I'm not going to repeat, typically about lawyers. So, anyway, and like the thing about the $750,000, if it was profit over $750,000, and then they wanted a piece, I could understand that, because from their perspective, they made it for supplemental material, not to help bankroll potential competitors. So I get if it was over profit and not just money brought in before expenses. There I can understand that. And I can understand, like, saying, if you're going to use the 1.1, you're saying that you're done with the other one. And now you're going to abide by the new terms. However, if you don't plan on using the 1.1, in other words, if you're not going to do stuff for 6th edition, despite the fact they're not calling it that, we all know that's what it is, then you can still use stuff for 3rd and 5th. Because, I mean, from their perspective, I don't understand why they wouldn't do that, because outside of the blip for 4th edition, with every edition, the majority of people eventually migrate to the next one. It's just what happens. Just like I expect the majority of 5th edition players will eventually jump to 6th, unless this particular situation just absolutely torpedoes everything, or if this is a sign of things to come and other parts of the situation torpedo everything.
I might just get on a different boat altogether at this point, Bobby.
So, and part of the reason why folks are taking a doom and gloom look at this is the other things that have kind of come out all at the same time. To shareholders, the current bigwigs of Wizards of the Coast have openly said that they think D&D is under-monetized.
I don't think it is.
Well, I actually think they're right. I just think this isn't the way to do it. and I'll get into that in just a second because they know the way to do it. Just real quickly here. So it sounds like they're going to try to nickel and dime people with microtransactions through the virtual tabletop and through D&D Beyond.
Horse armor, people.
Yeah.
Remember it. Don't buy into it.
And so this looks like another piece of that strategy, trying to corral everyone into D&D by just eliminating the competition with terrible bargains. So in that light, this move makes total sense. It's just that that's not how you do it, and it's because Hasbro is a toy company and doesn't get like the other parts. Okay, one of the people that's the higher up at Wizards of the Coast mentioned turning it into what they call, I think, is a 4-quadrant property, which means you have the game, but then movies, TV shows, video games, licensed stuff. For D&D, these 3 things should outweigh this thing because they've already know the problem with this thing. The problem with this thing is only 1/5 of the players spend any real money. The dungeon masters. And there's no way to change that setup unless you nickel and dime everybody on the virtual tabletop, which is what they mean by saying it's under-monetized. They think that 80% of our players aren't spending much money. Let's fix that. Let's get them to spend it. When they don't realize they could get them to spend it on t-shirts, video games, movies and TV shows,
collectibles,
restart the novel line so there's characters, turn them into action figures, put them on t-shirts, put them into movies. That's how you grow the brand, okay? You know, look at Star Wars. It's a movie set first, then the toys, comics, novels.
A lot of novels.
It expands out. I mean, there's only 11 movies, not counting the Clone Wars animated movie. I think it's 11, right? The 3 trilogies, Solo and Rogue One.
11.
Yeah, so 11 movies. Sure, it's spread across 5 decades now, but you know, there's a few TV shows. But I mean, it's a licensing juggernaut because of the characters. So that's what you have to do. That's why whenever they killed the novel line, it was the single dumbest decision they ever made. Because there were points in D&D's history, several, where the novels outsold the game. Because people care about the novels. They keep buying them. They keep reading them. Bring those back. You know, Battletech's been booming with novels. And it's a 40-year-old franchise. And so don't give me that whole oh, Prince dead. No, it's not. Egon was wrong in Ghostbusters, and he's wrong now. Sorry, Harold. But you were. Sorry, he was. That's all there is to it. So, but maybe model it after Battletech's current approach. Their current novels are shorter than their older novels. They top out around, upper 200s, lower 300s instead of 400 pages. Lower the page count. Do compilations of short stories. Things like that. But create characters people will like. Put them onto t-shirts. Put them into movies. Put them into video games. That's how you create all that other stuff. You're never going to create that from the RPG. Because what are you going to sell? You're not going to sell a t-shirt with your character on it. You could, but that'd be a very expensive endeavor. Instead, you want Dritz or Zaz Tam or Elminster or
D&DOne.
Other characters not from the Forgotten Realms whose names I can't think of at the moment, like the Dragonlance folks.
Strahd,
Lord Soth, Takesis, I still see shirts on T-Fury of the kids from the cartoon.
Ooh, I could use one of those shirts.
And that show was ridiculous. You know how they helped sell the DVD set? It came with 3.5 stats for the kids.
And their items.
Do things like that. That's how you're going to make all the money you're missing from that other 80% of your audience. They'll spend it on that stuff. They might not buy books, but by God, they'll buy t-shirts and miniatures and dice and everything else. Maybe not the miniatures. Well, maybe the miniatures. DMs still spend most on that. But still, they'll buy the one for their guy. Partner with Hero Forge. Buy Hero Forge. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. You can do it.
Yeah.
Like, do these things instead of nickel and diming everything, and don't destroy the goodwill you have with things like the OGL. You know, bring those people into the fold. Don't piss them off and drive them out into the wilderness. That's what gave you Pathfinder. That's my opinion, anyway. Chad?
Yeah, honestly, I don't mind them trying to control their product.
Yeah.
My issue comes from the part where it's we get a royalty free, irrevocable license to your stuff. That's my problem with what they're trying to push.
Yeah.
So they need to just get rid of that language. Be like, we're not going to charge you for this stuff. If we ever revoke this from you, we won't use your stuff. But we might include your stuff in side material. We might go ahead and put this up on D&D Beyond for you.
Yeah.
And if we ever revoke it, it gets taken down. Like, that's my issue with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Plus, D&D is not my only RPG I play, so like branch out is the easiest solution.
So yeah, and just a minor side note, like on the T-shirt thing, how many people did we see at Gen Con this year wearing Hellfire Club T-shirts from Stranger Things? Well, but last year. This is 2023. Sorry.
A number?
A notable number, right?
I thought they were wearing X-Men shirts.
Yes, for those of you who are unaware, the Hellfire Club are also a group of villains for the X-Men. So named for a rather infamous club known for debauchery and all kinds of things in New York. So, the Hellfire Club could be either A, the actual club in New York, B, the fake club in New York that's run by X-Men villains, which is exactly like the real club, but is run by evil mutants, or D, the D&D club from Hawkins, Indiana, circa 1986, approximately.
Yeah.
However, with the iconography that's on there, it could be mistaken for the other two. So, yeah. But anyway, there was a lot. And I mean, obviously that's Gen Con, that's the big, geek gathering, but still.
They don't wear those shirts just one time a year, though.
Right. I mean, they wear them elsewhere. And they probably have other shirts. I've got a few D&D shirts. Well, D&D related stuff,
yeah.
Older and stuff like that. You've probably seen them. You've probably seen me wearing them on here. So yeah, that's how you make the other money. Make the other things work. But to do that, you need characters. And you're not going to get that from the RPG.
Yes, you need more than a stylized ampersand.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool and all. That'll sell some shirts.
But yeah, but you need more than that.
Yeah. And so you need to bring back the novels. Make a new cartoon. Either serious or follow up the other one.
Sequel cartoon, Bobby. Sequel cartoon.
Yeah, I know. Or if your brand's really as big as you think it is, do both.
There you go.
Work out something, put it on Disney Plus. I don't know.
Give us a Dritz cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't need more representation, but sure. The guy's got 40 some odd books.
Yes, you start adapting the books. You got source material right there to do.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's I feel that is the far easier path to making boatloads of money than to just screwing everyone else. That's just me though. So anything else, Chad? You want to?
No, just don't rely on one RPG for your fun. Yeah. I understand it's easy, yeah. But
as I say, I know we're only playing D&D as far as
if that game tanks because of some poor business decisions, you're underprepared. to go to something else.
Yeah.
Plus, there's more dice that exist in the world besides D20s.
Yes, if you play Dungeon Crawl Classics, you'll find all kinds of new dice.
I meant there's dice pool games where you're using D10s or D6s. There's
I know. I'm talking about where you use 8 more dice.
actually Hasbro has RPGs based on some of their classic cartoons that are like D20 plus some other die depending on stats.
Sure, but I'm talking about how in Dungeon Crawl Classics you got a D30 and a 24.
I don't care about Dungeon Crawl Classics, Bobby.
But you should.
I've made this clear.
I know, but everyone else in the group wants to try it.
I don't care about it. Find me an RPG where I use a D100 for everything. I'll play that.
There you go, folks. That could be your system. Everything's a percentage.
You just gotta get past the percentage you need.
You just got to buy your $30 D100 and you're all set.
Yeah.
Or, you could just buy the 2 percentile dice, but...
No, you only need 1 percentile dice and 1 D10. And most 7 dice RPG sets come with both those already. So you should already be kitted out for stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, by the way, that's another little cheat that you could always attempt. Have it so that everything in your book is in percentages, but it's all in increments of 5%. Don't spell it out that they can just use the D20, but for those that are good at math, they'll figure it out.
Which, if they play role-playing games, they usually are.
Yeah, you would hope so, but...
It's part of it. Unless you're in some other games where it's just counting.
Yeah.
Which is what most dice pool systems are. But
all right, well, folks, hopefully that brings you up to speed. If you're not, anyway, so normally I'd ask you to like and subscribe and all that, and please do so. However, this is one of those rare moments where I'm going to put the needs of the community over our needs. It's far more important that you go out and make noise about this.
yes.
I have another video that explains how. That's not up yet, but I'll
Possibly something about Wizards of the Coast play testing some stuff right now and wanting feedback.
Yes, we'll very briefly discuss what I mean. So definitely share the videos. The ones I'm going to link to do a better job of describing this than I do, so maybe link one of their videos. I'm going to link mine, that'd be great, but ours, that'd be great, but, link the others too, they do a better job.
Convenience of sharing links. If we're linking to the others down below, you should just share ours.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we are already directing people there.
That's true. But definitely comment here, comment on their videos so they gain traction. Go to Twitter, go to Facebook, go to Reddit, go to wherever you could potentially be seen. Comment to the people you know in real life that you play with. Make sure they know what's going on. Explain why it's important. And get them to go comment and like and share.
I wonder if there's any threads on this on the D&DOne forums.
Well, there probably are, if they're not being nuked. But go wherever you can. Make your voice be heard. Make the fact that you don't like this make it vocal. Because, like I mentioned at the very beginning, they responded within a week of the last kerfuffle.
Yep.
They haven't responded yet to this, and it's been more than a week. Or it's been about a week. So either they're weighing their options, in which case the leaked document is accurate, and the more people make noise about it, the more likely they are to take a step back and say, hold up, guys, maybe we're making a mistake.
You'd think their lawyers would go like, we can't do that part right there, guys.
You would think they would, but their lawyers also get paid by the hour and know that that'll lead to a court case. Now, by the way, as I understand it, that's actually like grounds to sue your own lawyers if they give you faulty advice that's just going to help them pad their hours. But, that doesn't happen very often, as I understand it. Again, not a lawyer. Don't take it as any kind of advice. Probably best not to sue someone whose job is to be in court all the time, because they'll countersue you or something. I don't know. So anyway, foregoing the usual, just make your voice heard if any of this made some kind of an impact.
Go somewhere and be noisy about it.
Yeah, like somewhere that matters. Don't like yell out your window. That's
Or
what the cops call it.
go outside your local courthouse.
Yeah.
That will possibly get you arrested.
Yeah, don't do that. Like don't physically go outside and start yelling unless you happen to be like right next to Wizards of the Coast headquarters.
Yes.
Like if you're there, well, I'm not going to tell you to go for that either because that might get you arrested too.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's an option.
Send them snail mail. Send them emails.
Yes, and if you send them any kind of message, like if you directly talk to Wizards of the Coast, like via mail or anything,
keep it cordial.
Yes, be respectful. Make it clear you don't like the decision.
Tell them why you don't like the decision.
Right, but don't like drop the F-bomb and everything because it's not going to be an executive that reads your email.
No, it's just going to be some person in a mailroom whose job is to read the mail and
give some kind of summary, and they might pick a few to illustrate their point.
Yes.
So the more people are even-keeled about this,
the better.
It looks sincere. You know, it looks rational.
Honest.
Looks honest. You know, because you can be upset, but not wanting to kill someone over it.
Yes.
You know, like there's an art to it, but it's doable. Look to the writings of the founders if you have to. They were really good at calling each other all kinds of names, but still appearing quite civil. So
yes. Model your letter to Wizards of the Coast on the United States Constitution.
Well, I meant more like their letters to each other and what they called each other newspapers. Minus when they refer to each other as syphilitic invalids, but, you know, don't call them that, whatever you do. Although I don't know if anyone there will actually get that, so maybe.
They probably will.
I don't...
Look, at work, when I come across something in documents I don't understand, you know where I go? Google. Define word.
Yeah, but these people are full of themselves. Anyway, folks, that's it for tonight. Hopefully you stuck around for all this. But again, make your voice heard.
Yes.
Talk to you later.